Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location in the universe. Welcome to Iggy Garcia Live, the show where metaphysics, holistic living, motivation, and inspiration come together to empower your mind, body, and soul. We will dive deep into the realms of metaphysical wisdom, exploring the fascinating connections between mind and matter. Get ready to ignite your inner spark and embrace a journey of self-discovery. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Iggy here. Light a candle here real quick. Giving thanks to our ancestors, all those who came before us, those who trailblazed, those who set the pace, Did they know what they were doing? Not necessarily. They just were going through life just like us. And then, eventually they got to a place where they had to say goodbye to the world too, John. Kind of like we do, right? Anyway, so this candle's for those we love, those we miss, and those that we never met. Those that, came and went. Those who just passed along genetic markers to get us to where we're at today. We're here because of a lot of energy, a lot of work. And I think sometimes we forget that. I think we don't remember that. Now, are we responsible for that? No. But we're just a byproduct of all those that came before us. There might be some challenges, and then we add our flair and our spice to it. And that's where it can get kind of complicated, because the way we receive that gift and we receive that energy, how we take it, I don't know. So I just want to remember those who came before us and those who set the pace and set the place. And then I want to just a little Palo Santo. It was burned down. That's the trick. It causes the oil to run. Those of you who've never used a stick before. Now, Palo Santo is not like sage where it just burns continuously. You want to turn it into like a little hot coal, basically. Just turn it into a little hot coal. Blow it out. We set the tone, the intention for our podcast today, Iggy Garcia Live. All right. We'll just let that sit over here while we're doing the show. And those of you who are online can follow along and comment as you go. So this is Iggy Garcia Live, and we are in the With Insights Radio Network. It's part of our group of hosts and shows that come together and share different ideas, different topics, different feelings and emotions, metaphysical, holistic, non-metaphysical. It's a little bit of everything. And so if you ever want to check out what we're doing with Insights Radio, go to our website, withinsightsradio.com. You can check it out there, or you can go through my link at iggygarcia.com, and you can link through that way. And there's different ways to, find the station. This show is going to be broadcasting anywhere where podcasts are free. On Spotify, you'll find it on Amazon, you'll find it pretty much anywhere. On YouTube, here on Facebook for a little bit. Facebook takes them down after a while, but just wanted to share that with you guys and just be part of that. But I got some amazing news. I got some pretty cool stuff to tell you. I've been working with Jeremy Felder and Kristen Lane. We've been working on a project called Safe and Sound Wellness. Well, it's called Safe and Sound Wellness Academy now. So we actually outgrew the space that we were in, the one that some of you have been to, and in Palo, Ohio, the 80 Grace. Now we're at 240 North Liberty Street in Palo, Ohio. We're in a plaza. We're in a bigger space, 2,000 square feet, which is almost like three of those spaces in there. And so we're able to do the work that we truly want to do and hold the events that we truly want to hold and invite you to be part of that. We also have space for rental. We have space for sharing. it's just amazing. And this is kind of what the show's about today. It's just being in that flow, being in that rhythm, being connected with that. We had a lot of things came into our lap before we even opened up the first one. There was a lot of decision making, a lot of pondering and ideas, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And I'm a Sag, so I pretty much go for the ride. I like, I speak when I need to speak, and I share what I need to share. But I put a lot of trust in the people around me. That's why they're around me, because you want to trust them, and you want to be able to know that you're working with a good team of people. So the team that I'm with, amazing. They're amazing people. They're, Kristen, she brings all her energy with all the stretching and body taming and the work she does and all her knowledge and all the things that she's a student. And I love how she just approaches everything with laughter, kindness, and joy. And she's really fun to be around. And, she's like the head of the company, basically. She represents, Safe and Sound, I think, in a proper way. Because I think sometimes the masculine energy between me and Jeremy, we probably blow people out of the water. And then Jeremy brings his amazing gift of sound bowls and healing and knowledge of the world and things that he's done. If you've not been to any of his events, you're missing out. I'm sorry, but there's sound bowls, and then there's sound bowls. And like Kristen says, it's kind of like pop star type. It's kind of like it's a show, but it's also inviting. It's also loving and receptive, and you're healing, and you're going through that process. But he does it in a way which is just so beautiful. It's just so different than I've ever seen. And for some people, they just want the gentle and the quiet, and I get that, and you have your space for that. But if you want something that really captivates you and grabs you, and you're able to move into these realms, into these different parts of yourself, and through this meditation, and through yoga, there's a little bit of drumming, but not very much, but the bowls and just the gong and all the things he does, it's just really amazing. I know I'm not doing it justice explaining it, because it's one of those things you have to experience. It's kind of like going to one of my drum circles. You've been to a drum circle, but you've not been to a drum circle until you come to my drum circle, and I'm not trying to brag, but I do it very differently than everybody else. It's about community. It's about, bringing everybody together and singing and dancing and collectively, sharing our feelings. Tonight, I'm at Mystic Nirvana. Saturday, I'm at Schiller Park. And then on Sunday, my gosh, I'm going to be at Ash Cave with maybe another 200 to 300 people showing up again. Regardless, if one person shows up, not me and that person are meant to drum. But the thing is, we're building community. And that's what Safe and Sound Wellness is about. It's about building community. It's about connecting people with one another and sharing thoughts and ideas. Does everybody get it? No, not everybody gets it. Is everybody going to be on board? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But we try to approach it in a place where everybody is welcomed, everybody's available to come and explore, different modalities, ideologies, beliefs. And if you have something you want to share and something you want to be part of, I invite you to come to our space too and talk with us, share with us. We have a lot of amazing healers and practitioners in Ohio and in central Columbus, just let alone. A long time ago, someone told me that Columbus was the mecca of, healing. And I understand now, I understand what they were saying when they said that it is, there's a lot happening here when you look for it. And there's a lot going on when you put the intention to it. And, I'm pretty stoked about, the direction that Columbus is creating and all the little townships and the little, cities outside of Columbus, the greater Columbus area. We're in POW, and everybody's like, why are you in POW? It's kind of, you got to follow the smoke. Like in shamanism, they say, you just follow the rhythms, you follow the beats, and that's where you land. It's not so much where you're at. It's more about what are you building there? What are you building in that space? What are you creating in those four walls? It's not, location is location, yes, but in this type of work, no, it's not about location. It's about being connected and bring community to the area, outlining communities into other areas. This thing that we think that we all are competitive and competing against. No, there's 8 billion people on the planet, man. So there's tons of people to go around. Now you'll fit exactly where you need to fit. You're going to hang out with exactly who you want to hang out with. And that's what you want to do. But we want to be able to create a safe place for you. That's why it's called Safe and Sound Wellness Academy. Because we want also to teach. We also want people to learn to do the work we do. This work is a miracle. All these gifts that all these people have, they learned it from somebody or someone. You know, there had to be an elder, there had to be a teacher, there had to be somebody who came before them. And we edify the people that came before us. We give thanks to my shaman teacher. I give thanks to my indigenous medicine man, you know, and medicine women who I've worked with over the years. I give thanks to, you know, my family, my wife, my friends, the people who've taught me things. It's not so much, you know, that, oh, you're so smart. No, it's not that. It's, I learned it from somebody else, my grandmother, my father, my brother, my sister. Life experiences taught me. And so, you know what? I just wanted to share that with you guys because I'm super excited to see a lot of you guys show up there and come and check it out because we're going to have a good time. So, get a little water here, a little hoarse. So, you know, creating and manifesting, it's one of those things that was a hot topic for a while. I remember when there was a show called, it was actually a book, I think it was called The Secret. I think you guys remember The Secret. And how, you know, you're able to manifest and create things for yourself. And I remember the hype behind it. I remember how powerful it was. And you know, it's a sacred universal law. You know, you have to be in vibration, in rhythm with the things that you truly want. You know, it's not like just, I wish for it and I get it. And the problem that I ran into when I saw people doing it is that everybody thought it was just like, you know, they promoted it like it was a magic genie. You rub it and you get your wish. Well, sometimes things like that happen. Sometimes they do. But then sometimes it's a process. It's a process. And so I'm thinking to myself, this is an amazing process of working, you know, to manifest and create things that you want to bring into your world. And so I can't say that everything that I've done in my life has been easy, but I'm going to tell you, my life has not been super hard either. It's been challenging, but, you know, also I've thought about, you know, I don't want this to take over and consume me either. And so that's one of those things, how I move through life. But for example, this creation though, you know, Safe and Sound Wellness was Jeremy's baby, his idea, you know, he created that years ago and he's been writing that a little bit. But, you know, we all came into circumstances where we all had to connect and work together. And, you know, we could have called the company anything. We could have called it whatever we wanted, but we decided that, you know, I do sound, he does sound, she does sound in a different way. And so we just decided that we're going to ride that wave. We're going to ride that momentum that's already there. And so Safe and Sound Wellness was rebranded, recreated, and now the three of us are navigating that ship to build strong, powerful community. And how do you build strong, powerful community? You show up. You just do it. There's no precise map or plan. Sometimes you just have to be present. The problem is so many of us, sometimes we wait for the right environment, the right moment to do stuff. I'm going to tell you right now, there is no right moment, no right opportunity to do that. I remember my dad taught me that. My dad's like, you want to sell ice cream? I go, yeah. Oh, I need this, I need that. And he goes, no, I got this. You just got to go out and sell it. You know, you may not be prepared, but you're going to learn real quick. You're going to learn really fast. Now, not everything in life we can do that like that. You know, you don't become a doctor and just go work on someone's brain and that's it. But what you do when you want to create something and manifest something that's important in your life, it takes time, but you've been doing it for much longer than you think. You've been doing it much longer than you're probably even aware of. You know, when I work with my clients and when I work with friends and family and they want stuff, you know, I just get down to the basics, pretty simple, just pretty normal, and just say, you know, what do you want, you know? And they pretty much kind of throw a bunch of terminologies and words out, and pretty much that's pretty much it. But there's no organization, there's no direction, there's no feeling. It's kind of like when people do their New Year's resolution. You know, everybody has an idea what they want. In my country, like if you want to travel, you take a suitcase and you run around with a suitcase outside. You want abundance, you take 12 pennies, throw it over your shoulder. You want good health, you eat 12 grapes, and you do all the things that you want. But I had a teacher one time tell me, and he says, you need to make a list of the things that you want and how you specifically want them. It's like when you go to a restaurant, if they're serving something and there's something you don't like on it, what do? You usually say, can you hold the green peppers, please? But yet, when we talk about connections with other human beings, we're not specific. we're just like very desperate sometimes in our feelings and our emotions, how we approach things. And we can't do that. But there are temporary stops between peoples and feelings and emotions. And sometimes those temporary stops become permanent and they're amazing. And sometimes you stop and you're like, wow, this isn't really what I wanted. But hey, you know what? I needed to know this. I needed to learn this. Because if I didn't learn this, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So moving along, what I tell my people, I say, hey, listen, guys, write down all the things you want, put it in a manila envelope, and don't look at it. Just put it in a mental note what you did. And it's also like you can make a whiteboard too, creating whiteboards. People do that a ton. I mean, I learned that. I taught that for many years with different organizations I work with, with projects and stuff. And, you create, you cut out, and you put stuff. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember when you were kids, they used to tell us, what do you want to do when you grow up, blah, blah, kind of stuff. So they had all these magazines, and we would cut all the pictures out, and then we put them on a bottle, and then we would shellac them. I think we would shellac them, and we'd glue them, and then we'd shellac them on. I wish I still had that bottle, because I'm kind of curious what was on that bottle for me. But I remember doing that. I remember that project. I thought it was so cool, because I was so proud of my bottle. It had all these images and pictures and stuff that I had on there. And, who knows where it went, how it went, what happened. But I do know this. It's kind of like this project with the Safe and Sound Rentals. We had an idea of something we wanted to do. We didn't know how it was going to work out. We didn't know, if you know the story a little bit, one of our partners had to move into a space very quickly, very fast. And so that's kind of how the push came. And then we realized we're doing all the stuff we're doing, and we're like, man, this is we're like really, not every day was crazy busy, but when we were busy, we were busy. And it was like, standing room only sometimes. And so that wasn't fun, It was amazing, but also we wanted you guys to be safe, wanted to be comfortable. And then, an opportunity presented itself, and it presented itself, and we said, let's do this. And then that, and then that fell through, totally just collapsed. And we were just like, man, it was a beautiful idea. It was a perfect situation in our minds. But, it was good that we saw the writing on the wall prior to versus while we're there, because that would have been a mess. Then we were patient again, and then, we're just like, we're going to really outgrow this space because, we're doing so many things and people want to be part of it. That was the biggest thing, that people want to be part of a community effort that's, inviting, loving, and caring. And some people have created their own venues outside of us by being part of us. And so I'm thinking that's pretty cool and that's pretty amazing too, they're growing and we're learning, because that's what we want to do. We want to create community, being of healers or people healing or people just wanting to explore in a new journey. And then we got this opportunity with the space there. We talked to the landlord. We were all in agreement. And, that's it. And then here we are. We're moving. We're moving next week. So not all our events are canceled, but they're just got to be rearranged. And so we're just like, we take possession sometime next week, but it's just like, oh my God, this is like, we were just like, you just know. You're just like, man, this is like, how'd this happen? I don't even question it. I just riding it. I'm riding the wave because we're in it now. We're surfing it, right? Now we get to decide how we land, how we, get off that board, and how we get back on the beach and do it again. And go back, paddle back out and do it again. But it's just like life. It's like anything you do in life. You have to have some kind of idea, at least have an intention in your mind what you want to do. And then once you're there, don't become complacent. That's the biggest thing. Don't become complacent. Don't just think because, oh yeah, I'm here, I'm in a new relationship, now I'm just going to be complacent. No. You still got to foster. You still got to build. You still got to work on the things that you're working on. And you definitely got to work on yourself. I have to work on myself every single day. I've been married for 36 years to the same human being, my wife. And you know what? I'm a different person than I was when I was 20. I'm a different person when I was 30. I'm a different person when I was 40. I'm definitely a different person when I was 50. And now I'm going to my 60s. I know I'm going to be different. I know I'm going to see the world different. I'm going to have a different pace, a different view, a different idea. But I hope I go in with a wise, sage mentality, with, somebody who was able to, offer things to people and share with people. And so this other human being that I've traveled, these decades with, my wife, God bless her soul. God bless her, because I'm not the most easiest person to get along with sometimes, especially when I was younger. As I got older, not so bad. But I know that she had to go through stuff. We were raising kids, we were doing all kinds of stuff. We were having emotional moments, like every relationship. But we navigated. We kept going strong. We paddled. We worked strong. We kept going through that. And yesterday I was with her in the space. I didn't say anything to her, but I watched her. She was there, helping take down the vines, helping me pack things up. And I was just like, and I thanked her. I gave her a big hug and I gave her thanks, because she's my person. She's my energy. She's the person that, regardless of all the stuff we've been through and all the goods and the bads, she's there. Even through her pains and her self doubting beliefs sometimes. But she's probably one of the most motivating people, who motivates me and pushes me in a silent way. She's not like this cheerleader that "Oh, you can do it." No, she's very subtle, very quiet, and she's very particular. She's very meticulous in how she approaches things and how she views things. And she reads people very amazingly, you know. But I'm totally like stoked, that she was there helping me. And then Jeremy and Kristen showed up, and we just packed the place up. We're finishing up with the body work and the energy. And then, the drumming, I'll be at Mystic Nirvana tonight, because the place is just, it's a kind of everything's in the front of the space. But, I'm reading some of the comments here, and, Jill says totally different person than 3 months ago. So I'm assuming she's talking about herself. I don't know. It just maybe get more clarification with that when I talk to her next. But I'm just happy to see that we're able to build community the best we can. Now, do we always get it right? No, we don't always get it right, because you know what? We're flawed too, man. As much as we're healers and we're doing stuff, I think sometimes people put a lot of emphasis that people who do this work should be pretty well seasoned. Well, yeah, we're pretty well seasoned, and we're pretty well got to work on ourselves too. In the old days, I remember when I was younger, when I was in my 30s, because kind of when I started all this work, like officially, I just talked too much. I just shared too much. I was just like, didn't let anybody get a word in. Not because I didn't know any better, because I just thought that's what people wanted to hear. People wanted to hear what was in my head. Like, well, I'm a smart guy. It turns out one of my mentors says, you know what, you're very abrasive to me. And I told Susie, what's he mean by that? What does he mean by me being abrasive? Why, just, and pretty much just me, just being too hard and too pushy. Like, I was too much of a salesman, in the work I was doing. I guess that's the best example I can come across. Because, my teacher, when I said, you're really good at this, and he's like, you're kind of like, you're our guru. He's like, no. He goes, I'm more goo than Roo, and I'll never forget that term. I'm more goo than Roo. And he says, I'm nobody's guru. You're your own guru. You can only be your own guru. And if you give your power to somebody else, when you give away your gift to someone else, or you give yourself away temporarily because you want to learn something, there has to be an ebb and flow, a balance between the person that you're working with, the person that you are, in connection with. Because that person, number one, is another human being with judgments and ideas and stuff about themselves and how they approach the world, how they see the world. And so, I was thinking, not really hit me. And I was like, okay, I talk too much. I'm too loud. I'm too abrasive. I don't know if I'm too loud, but maybe in certain moments I can be. But, I really like to have fun. I really enjoy my work and how I do it. But here's a 30-year-old Iggy trying to impress the world, trying to show the world, oh, yeah, I got this. I can do this. And I struggled. Because I was struggling with myself, because I was thinking outside the parameters of me. I was bitter. I was angry at other people. I was frustrated. And, once I got through all that stuff, and once I worked through that, I still got more stuff to work through. You never arrive to that place where you're like, oh, I'm here. No, it's not that. But you got to listen. And that's one of my shaman teachers told me, you got to listen. You don't listen. He was right. I didn't listen. He says, you can't echo back one thing I said to you because you're talking. How are you going to learn about anything about anybody else if you keep talking? Sure, you're allowed to engage and have conversation and talk with people, but you need to shut up. He told me, you need to shut up. And he was blunt with me. I was like, I didn't take it personal because, I grew up in a Latino family. It's normal for your parents to yell at you, scream at you. And that feeling is just them loving you and sharing with you. Yeah, maybe in the United States it's not like that. But, I remember my mom and dad yelling at me. Oh, yeah, get out of here. I'm like, okay, they're just trying to get my attention because I definitely am shut off from anything that they're trying to tell me. And so I had to learn. I had to learn that, you know what, Iggy, and for those of you who don't know me, my name was Nacho for many years. Iggy came later when I was playing college. So if you ever run in circles with people who know me from my past, they know me as Nacho. They don't know me as Iggy. For them, it's really odd and strange. And for people who know me as Iggy, they think Nacho's weird and strange. And the people who are really close to me call me Ignacio. They just feel like that's how they should address me. And it's kind of cool, It's kind of weird too, because Ignacio is my grandpa, but he's no longer with us. God bless him, rest his soul. But anyways, it's just wild. But I knew I was in the flow. I knew I was in the rhythm. I just didn't. I was paddling my own way to things that probably weren't serving me. And so what doesn't serve you, you discard, right? But doing this work, I got a big head. I was doing a lot of amazing things, and I was like, but I wasn't fulfilled. Like I was inside me was kind of like an emptiness. I was helping all these people, but I wasn't getting any because I didn't understand that I took the work that I was doing like I was running a business, like I was running Garcia's restaurant. Like, the restaurant down the street is trying to put me out of business. And so I kind of had that mentality that other healers were doing the same thing. And, unfortunately, I was right. Not that they were trying to put me out of business, but they were not very kind about the way I approach things. Some of those people are no longer here or doing the work. But I only share that with you because I want you to have context, because I want to share because this is where I'm at. And then, it's like my upbringing too is me being, very cautious about other people, being cautious about, stepping into space. Sometimes what you see in front of you isn't what you truly see someone showing you because everybody wears masks. But it's normal to wear masks. People wear masks because that's how they protect their spirit, their soul, and their energy, so people don't go into the places they don't need to be. You should never invite people into spaces that you truly don't want them to be. There's no reason that you have to share every aspect of your life to everybody or anyone. You share your aspects of your life to the people that you truly care about. I'm not saying being shady. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there's just some things that don't need to be a topic of conversation. And I think sometimes people think because in order for someone to know us that we have to share every detail about our life. Now, some things are poignant. If you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, yeah, you would share some information, backstory and stuff, because that kind of gives you context of why you are the way you are in the present moment. But when you look at another human being knowing that you're a human, they're human, then we're both flawed, that we're all flawed, and that we're going to make mistakes, that we're going to screw up, and if there's room for forgiveness and understanding that that person was just doing the best they could in that moment, then you can move forward. But then sometimes we get stuck in these energies because someone hurt us, and then we just ride that wave. And truthfully so, when someone hurts you, that's hurt. It doesn't matter if it was verbally or physical, it still hurts. It still hurts us. It hurts us when we feel that when we feel it inside of us, we know that it's there. So that's why we're trying to create this new way of approaching healing. All healing is self-healing, but you have to have guides. You have to have people to help you navigate you through the waters. When you go to Peru, you have a tour guide because you don't know anything about Peru. You don't know anything about the area. And so you take on somebody who, doesn't really have a deep connection to you, but they have a connection that you are there to learn something from them, that you are there to, obtain some knowledge in some ways of techniques to help yourself. And that's what we do too. You want to learn drumming, we teach you drumming. You want to learn bowls, we teach you bowls. You want to learn the handpan, we teach you handpan. You want to learn the stretch work, we teach you the stretch work. You want to learn shamanism, we teach you the shamanism. You want to learn some type of indigenous dance, we teach you that. But, we have also we have amazing people. My friend Jill here, she's online. She shares her gift of her artwork. We have many great, amazing people who share their gifts with us. We've had, our friend Megan, she does the Kundalini, but that's not all she does. That's just something that she shares, right now. There's amazing stuff to do. So I really hope that everybody gets to that place where they're able to share their gifts with us and share their gifts with the world. Sometimes you just need a platform. Sometimes you need a stage. Sometimes you just need to be someplace that says, "Come on, let's do this." Let's see what you got. Let's see what the world says. Let's share the gifts that you have with the world, because the world's been waiting. You've been waiting. Mostly you've been waiting to be able to share your gifts. But the problem is sometimes that we get all these little voices in our head from people who really don't serve us anymore. People who would never do what you do because they're not interested, but yet they're interested enough to sabotage you and create a wake and knock you off your board, so you don't move forward, because they're afraid that you might pass them by, that you might, they may not well, I might be by myself. You'd be amazed why people sabotage other people. You'd be because misery enjoys company, right? That's that old saying. And I believe that to be true. But so does positivity. So does loving enjoys company too. People who are part of the group, If you find like-minded people, you're going to resonate, you're going to connect, and you're all going to, I can't say be super happy, but you're all going to be in a good place to share feelings and ideas. So, like I always say, what books are you reading? What music are you listening to? Who are you hanging out with? My mom used to tell me, I can tell you who you are by the friends you have. And she says you only have one friend, so. But it's just funny. But she would tell me that. She goes, I know who you're hanging out with. I know what you're like. I know what you're possibly doing, And, it's kind of like, okay. I'm like, okay, Mom. Moms are smart. Moms are pretty interesting. They have this, I call it sixth sense, but Mom just know. You can't hide anything from Mom, Anyhow, it's like, yeah, being in the flow is just knowing that you're going to fall off the board once in a while, and you should be okay with that. That you should be all right to ride that wave, and not crest it as long as you can, and know that eventually that wave comes down. It comes down, then you're going to have to reinvent yourself a little bit more. It's not like you have to do a total revamp. It's just knowing that you're going to have these peaks and valleys in the work you do, and so that's why in The Secret, people were left with only pieces and parts of the story. They didn't tell you that you had to do this, you had to organize, that you had to work through this stuff, that you maybe had to give up some things that didn't serve you either. Sometimes, you want to do this and do that, but you can't because you're doing the other opposite thing that keeps you from doing that. And, it's just amazing. And, when you do this work, you're going to find that not everybody is at your level. Nobody is where you're at. Nobody knows what your story is. And when I say at your level, that means they just don't know who you are. You don't know who they are. And that's why communication is super important, to talk and share. You'll know in the first 2 minutes if that's somebody that you can resonate with or you're going to have a connection with. Now, in the work we do, sometimes we just have to listen to see what people are talking about, what they're telling us and sharing. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy because, sometimes people will only tell you the surface things about them in their lives. But we all can look at somebody. We all know that people have things that bother them, the things that trigger them, things that move them into a different way of thinking, in a different light. But that's what I love about being human, because we get to experience all these feelings and emotions that it's just unique to ourselves. Like everything that I feel is unique to me. Everything you feel, and everybody who's online, is unique to themselves. It's nothing. It's not a magic wand. It's just who you are. It's Creator experiencing all little pieces and parts through all of us, experiencing the world. And so that's why some things look familiar. That's why something looks odd. And, and I always tell people, I always tell my students, the game always starts in your mind. So everything that you think about starts here. Everything that you want to create starts here. It doesn't just pop up, because if you see something that you want to do, you're still going to put it in here, and you're going to make it your own. You're going to make it how you think it's going to be. I'm writing a book right now, The Sacred Path of Grief. And I named it that because everybody has their sacred path of grieving. And this isn't death. This is just losses. About how you go through losses, some losses are good for us. Some losses are challenging. Some losses are devastating. But they're losses nonetheless. You go bankrupt, that's a loss. You have a relationship, that's a loss. You have a death, that's a loss. How do we deal with loss? And so that's why I was dedicated to write this book, because when I first started, it was a bereavement drumming circle. It was working with people who lost a family member to death, in some way or another. And then eventually we found, that, what, there's all kinds of losses, because I invite people to the space. And one of the weird things for them was, everybody's talking about death here. Everybody lost somebody. I lost a girlfriend, I broke up with her. And, in that moment, I was like, we need to offer this more than just for bereavement. Loss is painful in every level. Loss is painful, with something, you lose a ring, you lose something, you lose your pet, it's a loss. And you feel it. So how do you navigate that? And so that was my goal with this book that I wrote. So my goal was to bring the human side of it out, and that, nobody wants to hear, you'll be fine, you'll get over it. No one wants to hear that. Nobody really wants to hear those kind of words. What people really want to hear is probably sometimes nothing. And then sometimes they just want to hear that you care and that you're available. And sometimes that's just as powerful as saying, "Oh, you're still grieving?" Oh my God, I've heard people say that. I thought you'd be over by it. I've heard this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, why would you say that to somebody? Everybody's process of grieving is different. Everybody processes feelings and emotions differently. If we were all the same, then we'd just be a program, a robot. We'd be a system, but we're not. We're a high sentient functioning being that has feelings and emotions, and those feelings and emotions can drive us or destroy us or empower us. Because whatever we think and create is inside our head, it will manifest outwardly. And also on our little body here, it will manifest onto our body, our feelings, creating an acidic or alkaline body. One of the two is going to happen. Sometimes you have a little bit of both. You have a little crossover. Just like myself, I created an acidic environment in my body, not because I was being negative, because I was just not being cautious, and not thinking that my body was tethered to me some degree, that I was putting the wrong fuel in my body. Sometimes we put better oil and better gas in our cars than we put in our mouth, fuel wise. And I find that, to be kind of weird sometimes, because it's like, you'd spend more money buffing and waxing your car than you do taking care of yourself. But sometimes we have to go down these deep, dark roads in order to find our way back to the place that we needed to be. And it's not always easy. But anyways, moving forward with this, I wanted to share these feelings and these thoughts and these emotions, because, that's kind of how I am. That's why I started these podcasts with my sister. My sister's no longer with us. She passed away 3 years ago, and she was my partner in crime in the work we did with Insights Radio, and she was done, and she took me out for coffee, and that was our last conversation. And just, you don't know how much time you have with somebody sometimes, and sometimes we just have to be cognitively aware that that we're blessed, regardless, even with problems and situations and ailments, we're still blessed. My mother-in-law was like, today, I said, today's an amazing day. She goes, why is it an amazing day? I said, because number one, we both woke up, regardless if we have pains or aches. We woke up, and I'm blessed and thankful that Creator gave us another day to share with you and Suze and anybody who comes in my path, and vice versa. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I want to talk a little bit more about the secret thing, because the secret thing was not that it didn't work. It's just that people never had expectations of that, like that for themselves. They never thought that they could obtain things like that. And then when someone said, you can have this and that, and then what happens is you don't get it. And you're like, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah. Of course it doesn't work, because you already told yourself it's not going to work. One of the things about the secret is there was pieces and parts that were left out in order to sell product, to sell things. And so that's the story that I wanted to share, is like, if you want to sell product, you can sell product all day. If you want to build community, that takes work, and it's good to be here. Yes, Jill. You build community. You build trust with people. You build friendships and relationships. That's what helps other people. And sometimes you're just the conduit that leads people to people. And sometimes the people who you lead to other people, they connect and they're together, and then you know what? They do whatever they need to do. They'll figure it out. But sometimes I'm just the bypass, hey, you meet this guy, you meet this gal, this gal, you know? But sometimes when you create a space like Safe and Sound Wellness, people congregate there, they come there, and they meet there. And sometimes people come into these spaces and they become best of friends. And sometimes the people who they were friends with maybe are not together. I don't know why, just no rhyme or reason. But I just know that when you create safe space, safe boundaries, safe places where people can be themselves and express themselves, you're going to get good results. And that's why the three of us, we work so hard to make sure that everybody's having a good time, that everybody's getting what they need. We have a bonfire this weekend, as well. Why do we have a bonfire? Because we want to. It's not just about the biz. It's not just about opening doors and charging a fee or whatever we do. It's also about like giving back to your community, and we give back that way. We say, hey, come hang out with us for a while. It's like Ash Cave. It's the same way. Hey, come on, hang out with us for a while. Come, just be with us. You're not obligated to stay long, but come for a while. And that's why we do this. That's why we do the work we do. Yeah, and sometimes we ask for donations, and sometimes we ask for this because, truthfully, we have to sustain our businesses. We have to sustain the doors to keep it open. but what I'm saying, like the bonfire, we don't really ask for anything. We just ask that if you want to learn more about it, you want to be a volunteer in helping with the farming, and helping Kim out and her family, with the vegetables and gathering. We're always looking for that kind of stuff because some people like that kind of things, but you don't know what you like until you know it's available. So we're going to make things available as much as we can. And if it resonates with you, cool. And I know that you can't be there 7 days a week, but if you could be there 1 day, 2 days, 3 days a week with us, that'd be amazing. And, in the real world, everybody's got things to do, and we totally get it. But we do miss you when you don't show up. We do miss you when we don't see you, because we've created a family there. We've created a community there. We've come close with people, and we want to make sure that everybody's getting what they need. Will we be able to fill every need? Possibly not, but we're going to try. We're going to do our best. We're going to do our best to do that. Why? Because that's what we would look for. See, this is why I want to work with these guys, because I want to go to a place where I can do these things. I looked, there are places, but there's really no place where you can just hang out and just jump in and do things like what we're going to create here. So I remember when I was younger, I was like, oh, I wish there was a center where I could just pop in and just be part of it. And I don't necessarily have to be involved with it, but I just want to be part of it. Some would come, some would go, but eventually you're just like, and here we are. Now we're Safe and Sound, that place. That place in my mind, Jeremy's mind, Kristen's mind, where we said, you know what, people need a place where they just need to hang out and do stuff and be able to just be involved in this and be part of it. So what's the best thing? We create a school, an academy on top of the work we're doing to teach you, to share with you our gifts and knowledges with you, if that's what you want. And if you want something else, we'll bring somebody else to teach you. But, we want to create that educational process. We want to have the kids come and hang out, because the next generation is coming up. The next generation is looking for leadership, and we would like to be that leadership. We would like to be that space. We would like to be the person that opens up the doors for a new growth, new vitality, new ideas. Because it's easy to get stuck in the old paradigms. This is the way we do this. Everything is 5D, 3D. Everything is, Reiki. Nothing against that, because we do it too. But I don't want it to just be that. I want it to be more expansive. I want it to be much bigger, much more collaborative, much more, in a place where, we're all growing. And as we grow, we all learn from each other. Sometimes when you walk into other spaces, you don't really get to learn from anybody, because there's always someone teaching, just sharing, and they're just kind of giving you the examples and stuff. But if this sounds like something you guys want to be part of, something that feels like this is your calling to be on board with that, we're available. We're not pushing everybody to necessarily be part of it, unless you truly want to be part of it and be involved with it at some level, at some place. So our doors are open. you have our ways of contacting us. Contact us, because all of us bring different gifts, and the friends we bring in brings different gifts. We have some amazing practitioners coming in. We have some amazing opportunities coming in. So, in all truth, honesty, deep down inside my heart, this doesn't happen unless the people who come to Safe and Sound Wellness and support us create the environment to do that. So it has been happening, and we're truly honored and blessed and grateful for that. I want to thank everybody who's been part of our organization just in a short period of time. I've been a nomadic healer for over, 30 some years, 30 plus years. And for me, I stepped into an arena that I've stepped into just briefly with other people, but this is the one I stepped into because I trust and believe the people that are around me. I know everybody has their history, everybody has their past and the things they work on. They're still working through it. I want to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not perfect either, and I'm going to do the best I can to do what I'm going to do. And so that's kind of why we work together, because, we're like, okay, we have gifts. We want to share them with the world. And if you're on board with that, and you want to learn from us, cool. If you want to learn from our friends, it's cool. But, that's one thing. There's perfection in the imperfection. That's something my teacher taught me and reminded me. Stop trying to make it right. Try making it perfect, because in the imperfection there is perfection when you look for it, when you find it, and you will find it. You will find it when you're not, covering your head into all these areas of stuff. Sometimes we're our worst enemy, because we make our own, just blockage. We create our own blockages. But why do we create our own blockages? Because we trust other people's words. We trust, certain things. We buy into certain things. We buy into certain ideologies and beliefs. And then when they let us down at some level, that's when we have these issues that we come into. But I'm stoked. I'm pretty excited. And I wanted to share that with you guys today on this show, on this episode of Iggy Garcia Live, that, building community is where it's at. Building trust with other people is where it's at. Understanding that, not everybody's going to get that, and that's okay. But those who understand it, those who get it, welcome aboard. And those of you who don't understand that, we're still there rooting for you. We're still with you. We're still hoping that you find where you need to fit, where you're going to land. Because that's what we want for humanity. We want humanity to be better. And the only way humanity becomes better is if the people who are creating these spaces, share with people and create things for people. Because too many times it's just take, and not give back. And our society's been that way for so long. Taxes, wars, famine, separation, just incarcerations, all kinds of stuff. Society could be better, but society has to learn the same way we're learning, the same way we're exploring and figuring things out. It takes time, but time is an illusion, so there really is no time. We just flow into the rhythms and the beats and the things that we need to flow into. So, I'm here, Jeremy's here, Kristen's here, and a few others who are on board with us are there too. And if you want to be part of Safe and Sound Wellness, I invite you to come into the space. So this show was about flow, just being in the flow. Sometimes you just got to be in the flow. You just got to step into the space and see where it takes you. It's just another wave on that, on that beach, the coastline, or on that beach. You see them out there. They're always coming. The opportunities are always rolling. The opportunities are always there. You get to decide which one you're going to try to, take on, which one you're going to ride in. Yeah, and you're right. Keep showing up. You keep showing up, absolutely. But, I love the waves because they never stop. And sometimes they become very gentle and they slow down, but they're still coming. They're still coming. But then when the storm comes, they really come. And when it's time to really see where you're at and how the challenges, you'll find out pretty quick what you need to work on. And, sometimes there's nothing to work on. Sometimes it's just you have to fall into it and just be tumbled around and just get recycled back and start over again. That's what's cool about life. There's no destination. It's the journey. The beautiful journey of life. Just being and meeting all the new cool people and meeting all the cool animals and connecting with spirit, connecting with, life. Sure, there's crap all over the world. There's things you can dislike about this or that. But if you allow that to consume you, it's going to consume you. So wherever you put your energy, wherever you put your intentions, it's going to be energy follows intent. So whatever your intent is, whatever your energy is, wherever you place that love and that energy and that pieces and parts of you, you're going to get more of that. You get more of what you want, and you usually get more of what you don't want because of the way we think. So keep thinking, be real, be yourself, be truth. But you know what? Even when you're real and be truth, it's more for you, not for somebody else. Not for somebody else. Don't expect anybody to see you the way you think you should be seen. Just be that person in that moment. Be yourself regardless. It doesn't matter. Just have healthy limits and boundaries with yourself. Create healthy limits and boundaries. And just know that when someone crosses it, you have to tell them. Don't wait 3 months later to say, hey, you crossed a boundary. No, when someone crosses a boundary with you, just say, hey, healthy limits and boundaries. Whatever that means to you, you'll figure it out. But I feel so many people sometimes have feelings and emotions, they don't share them. They absorb them and they hold on to them all. And then there you go. Well, I should have said something. You should just honor yourself. Just tell yourself, next time, I am going to make sure that I'm a little more vocal, a little more, present in that moment about how I feel about things. I'm not here to give you answers or stuff. I'm just here to share what we're doing and share with you the things that are coming up the pike. I'm pretty stoked. I know there's a lot of things I could have talked about, but I just wanted to share with you being in the flow and following the smoke and, just being present for yourself. And when you're present for you, you get more presence. And I like presence and you're being in the moment. I understand that yesterday is dawn, and I know some things happen that may not be fun, but they don't have to own you. They don't have to be part of you. They're just part of your recorded history of where you've been. It doesn't guarantee that that's where you're going to go again. It just means I'm cognitively aware that that happened. Doesn't mean it's going to happen again. This is where I'm at now. This is what all that stuff that happened to you has brought you to this present moment, into the present of the people that are in front of you, the present moment of the work you're doing, the present moment of everything that you want to be. All that, me too. All the stuff that happened to me, all that just pushed me to the beach line, and I'm sitting there going, there's more to be done. But yes, I'm back on dry land, I'm back. Now I get to experience again. Sure, that's painful, but it's way out there. I acknowledge you. Thank you. God bless. Moving on. But here I am, being in the present moment. After we had just this conversation, all that's in the past. But we're here now. Right here. I'm just right in front of you. You're right in front of me. This is where we're at. This is all we can't even control this. We can't even control this. We can only observe this and be fluid with this and be with this. Because the crazy thing is, sometimes we just have to be in it to feel it and to observe it and to learn from it and to be part of it. And sometimes it's uncomfortable and sometimes it's very comfortable. But the thing is that when we're there, when we're in it, we have an opportunity to, use our filter system that we have created and all the things that we've, gathered. And, no, don't judge the judgment, but, it's like we do. And a lot of times we judge this because we don't understand. And the way we understand is just be there, be present for you. I'm not saying don't be present for your kids, don't be present for that. I'm just saying, but, know that you are the main focal point of yourself, that you have to make sure that you're good. It's like the old saying, you can't fill someone else's cup, when your cup's half empty. You're going to share. There's a lot of great metaphors in the world, and people talk in metaphors because it sticks in our head. And it's good to be here. Why does Iggy say that? Because I believe that. Sometimes it's not, but you know what? I know if I say it long enough, it's going to turn into good things. That the universe is going to gift me the things that I'm looking for. It's good for us to be here. It's good to be here. I'm blessed to be able to come on this little computer, this little phone, and turn it on, click it, and go, hey, what's going on? My name is Iggy Garcia. I'm here to share my feelings and emotions with you and all kind of ideas that I collect along the way. So the advancement of human technology, the advancement of the human mind, even though sometimes we think we're dumbing it down because we're on these things all the time, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, when people come at me sometimes about AI and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, man, are you on a computer, dude? I'm like, are you on a cell phone? I mean, I don't say it out loud. I'm saying it here right now because, it's for the point that I'm trying to get at. Your car has a computer, your batteries in your phone are mined by little children, in third world countries who probably don't eat well or probably don't have much. But yet we get upset because someone's, created a flyer with AI because some data center just all of a sudden, used gallons and gallons of water. But you know what? No one talks about how much water it takes to make 1 can of Coke or 2 liter of pop. No one talks about that. Look it up. You'd be shocked. Your beverages, all your power drinks, all your power, all the things that you think are good for you has a process of using water. Now, granted, maybe they don't use it at the extreme rate as maybe these data centers, but hey, nonetheless, how many gallons of water do you really need to make a Coke? So you can be comfortable and you be happy. We're consumers. This world is a consuming world. It uses it up. And it uses it up and it doesn't realize there's no way to replace certain things sometimes. But water doesn't get destroyed, it transmutes, it changes. So the water that's used doesn't just dissipate and just gone. No, it just becomes another form of energy. Rancid or not, it becomes something else. When the lake dries up, it just goes somewhere else. It moves someplace else. And the morning dew comes, look at the smoke we had the other day from the fire, right? The fire was going and the smoke came here. But, nature has a way of balancing things out, right? Nature's funny. She creates all those clouds and all that smoke, and then we got rain. We had an opportunity to cleanse and purify. You can look at it however you want. You can have whatever idea or conspiracy, whatever you want. But there's a rhythm, regardless if we start it or we create it, there's a rhythm to the earth. And she'll do things a specific way. And she'll recalibrate herself a certain way. Because that's what the Mother Earth does. We're Mother Earth. Our feelings, our spirits, our emotions. All that working on. So don't live in fear about that, because it's okay to be fearful sometimes. Because it just keeps you thinking. Not so much that it owns you, but it just kind of keeps you not hoodwinked and blind to situations. It's when you get inundated, when you bury yourself into it, that's when it could be a problem, an issue for you. Moving forward, we're just going to do the best we can. Now, understand that everybody thinks this way. Not everybody has a lot of energies where they come from a fear-based foundation because of, ideas, beliefs, and just the way the world can be sometimes. I look at the world sometimes and I'm going, wow, there's nothing I can really do per se in that moment, but I could probably do something after the fact. There's some things I just can't avoid and stop. But it doesn't mean I have to stop speaking my voice, speaking my truth, speaking whatever I feel is correct. So never give up on yourself, never give up on others. Always trust that someone's doing the best they can. Now, you're not obligated to stay with that person or share with that person all the time. but you're also got to make sure that you're good. You know, if you have a higher source you connect with that. If you believe in God, you believe in Christ, you believe in higher consciousness, and, higher self, whatever. We all human beings have this connection to something outside of us. We just can't get away from it. We know that instinctively there's something out there. Even the atheist who believes in nothing, which has to believe in nothing, which is the biggest thing to believe, that there's nothing. That's a huge belief that you have to carry, that nothing exists, that nothing is beyond these walls, beyond our existence. That's a lot to believe in. So probably sometimes it's easier for people to concentrate and focus on something that feels real versus nothing being real. I don't know. These are just my ideas. These are just my thoughts. Are they right or wrong? I don't know. They're just the mind of Iggy. I'm just thinking about stuff. I'm not here to try to persuade you or move you in a certain direction. I'm just here to share what I'm thinking about. But I appreciate you guys being here on my show on Iggy Garcia Live, Iggy Garcia TV, IggyGarcia.com. But I ask you to, if you have a chance, check out my website, go to my YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's good to be here. Because if this is the kind of stuff, content you like, this is the kind of things I share, I have a whole library of information that you can, just peruse at your leisure. Anyways, I hope to see you guys. Our grand opening, whenever that happens, we'll give you the date when that's going to be. There's a few things we have to take care of, but other than that, we're in the flow like you guys. We're moving forward. We're flowing forward. And we're going to keep going forward and, till we take our last breath. And even when we're there, when we take our last breath, we're going to keep flowing forward in the next realm. All right, guys. Love you very much. It's good to be here. Ho'oponopono, matakuyasin. What is above is below. Irisikwi. It's good to be here. And I will see you guys soon. Hopefully I can see some of you guys tonight at the Drum Circle at Mystic Nirvana. That's in Westerville. All right. And I will talk to you soon. Then we have the potluck on Saturday. Don't forget, we also have the Drum Circle on Saturday. Then we definitely have Ash Cave coming up. So I will see you guys later. Check out our website, safeandsoundwellness.com. That kind of gives you the events coming up. Or you go to IggyGarcia.com. Check out my event page there as well. I will see you guys next time. Be good. Be well. I'll talk to you. Let's just make this a great day. Have the most amazing day you could possibly have. And I will see you soon. Take care, guys.